Welcome to the Dave Palma Show, the podcast that revives, restores, and awakens your innermost capabilities.
You have the training and the talent to succeed, but do you have the guts to fail?
I love what I do. When you love what you do, you want to be the best at it.
Today is about the power of you. You will change the world.
Find your path to success through the journey of those who have succeeded. And now, your host, Dave Palma.
Hi, welcome back to the Dave Palma Show. And with me in this episode, I have someone who was born in China in 1966 and was one of the first teens to leave China legally after Mao's Cultural Revolution. He earned a Ph.D. in chemistry from the University of Chicago and became a professor at the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities, and the University of Wisconsin-Madison, retiring in 2022. Richard Hsung, welcome to the Dave Palma Show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, great pleasure having you here. So obviously you had a very interesting Chinese American experience. Being a teenager, you probably remember quite a lot about growing up in China anyway. Probably not when you was a baby. Yeah, enough. Yeah, not when you was a baby. But I mean, I was born in the UK, but of immigrant parents. So actually my father's from Mauritius and he had a very close Chinese Mauritian friend. Because, you know, Chinese, this diaspora, just like Africans and Indians, it's everywhere in the world, isn't it? It's like yourself, you know. So, yeah, so that's he's Indian, Mauritian. So the diaspora went from their little island and coming back, as did the Chinese. And I stayed in Philippines, divided my time between there and UK up until a year into the pandemic. So I was very close to China and actually went there 2 or 3 times just the year before the pandemic hit us. And one of the places, Guangzhou, was where the hospital collapsed. I don't even remember that. There was a hospital with COVID patients when it all first kicked off, and then it collapsed. And that's where I was in Guangzhou with it. But anyway, it wasn't my fault, by the way. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So let's talk about you. Obviously, I don't want to. I've got a politics degree, so I might ramble on too much, and it's not about me. It's about you, and you're bringing out the sort of stuff that happened. So you've written a memoir that you finished off from your mother's one, who was the one that fled China from Mao. And I did have some debates actually with some with some Chinese people out about communism there, but it was fleeing Mao's communism. But that was around the time of the Vietnam War, and communism was a real big problem then, wasn't it? In Cambodia, Vietnam, obviously with the war, and of course China, and there still is a bit of conflicts around Taiwan, and that's where a lot of the kind of, you know, some Chinese people didn't want that regime fled to, isn't it, really, the first place? Of course, a lot wanted to go to the US like yourself, and as did some Vietnamese, and UK was another place, you know. And tell us your experience. I don't know where I want to start, but you can start anywhere you want, maybe as a teenager before we go into the book.
Yeah, so I think the word fleeing is probably more accurate.
Oh, okay.
On the cautious side, which I tend to be, we left China legally and with all the proper documents.
Yes.
Even though we had to go to Japan, potentially, I'm not totally clear why we were there for a little bit. Potentially, we were also trying to see if we can actually get the visa from American embassy stationed in Japan. But all of those details elude me a little bit, so I sort of smoothed over in the book. But we left China.
Yeah.
I guess legally, but leaving, fleeing, trying to run away. I guess for my mother, it would be she was trying to just go home to America and leave China forever, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you remember as a child then? How old was you as a teenager? You was a teenager. When was that then? 1970 something?
Yeah. So
1980.
By the time officially we left. It was 1981, so
Right. Yeah.
I was still 14. I was about to
Yes.
turn
Yeah.
15.
Right. That's a very
And up to
important
that
age.
point, up to that point, I didn't know anything about what was going on.
Oh,
And
okay.
so
In China. Oh, I see. Okay.
I was blindsided and uprooted from my classroom. My classmates essentially didn't know what happened to me. I just disappeared.
Yeah. Yeah.
And next thing I knew, I was on this Japanese airline flight en route to Tokyo.
Yeah.
And so it was on the way, and then we flew Pan Am to JFK later. It was on my way I learned that we were going to America, and that there was a chance that we would never come back. And I think when we were boarding the plane on the tarmac in Shanghai, Hongqiao Airport, International
Yeah.
Airport.
Is that where you lived at that time, Shanghai?
Yeah. Well, we
Near there.
lived about 150 miles south of Shanghai.
Right.
There's
Okay.
a city called Hongqiao. I was raised there,
Oh, okay.
and that's where we were. That's where we were
Yeah.
before my mother and I left.
Yeah.
And so we had to drive all the way up to Shanghai to the international airport. That was a venture itself, but anyway. And so
150 miles.
yeah,
It's not that bad.
At that time, China, the transportation in China or the highway infrastructure was very poor, right?
Yeah,
so it took about 5-6 hours just to get up there.
Yeah.
They're driving about on average 20 miles an hour.
Oh, that's not good.
Or 30.
Not good.
Yeah. So so on the tarmac, actually, I sensed something big was happening, or a drastic turn was about to occur. So I didn't want to board that plane, and my mother literally had to drag me onto that plane because I didn't want to leave my father and my sister, my older sister.
Oh no, yeah, of course.
Yeah, so then that was how I left China.
That's what communism does to you sometimes, split families up, didn't it?
Yeah, right. That's exactly
in those days, anyway.
What happened? Yep.
Yeah. I mean, the famous tennis player Martina Navratilova had the same kind of thing. She obviously because of her tennis, she managed to get to Miami to play as a young kid. But she never saw her mother again because of the communist regime until it fell apart in 1989. You know,
right? Yeah.
And of course, you were split up by your father and daughter, and it's a similar kind of thing, I think. Is it?
Right. No, I mean at the time, my mother definitely thought, or we thought that was it, right? So we would never see each other again. I mean, the family would be split in half. Of course, later on, took some years, but later on, we were reunited.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
About 25 years.
That's a fair old time, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a fair old time. But anyway,
right.
At least you did. And then you got some memories anyway of when you grew up together, haven't you? Really?
Yeah.
So that's a good thing about it. Yeah.
Right. It was. I mean, I had enough memories of my childhood in China, allowing me to work on my mother's memoir because that was part of her story. And she didn't really tell me where the memoir should end, so I arbitrarily ended as we were flying to New York City in 1981. Yeah,
that's interesting, isn't it?
So you included a pretty decent portion of my childhood. So
yeah. So obviously, you arrived in America, and obviously you're a professor now, so you probably didn't see that coming when you arrived in America.
Great question. Yeah, no, not at all.
Tell us your journey from there, and your mother's journey as well, because she became, against all the odds, a doctor as well, didn't she? I can never pronounce that word, but I know lots of these.
It's
I know where it is, but I just can't pronounce it. Yeah, that's it. There you
go. She became an ophthalmologist in China, and actually a fairly well-known surgeon, and specialized in glaucoma, and that was her blessing, I guess.
Yeah.
In a sense that doesn't matter. It didn't matter what was going on. A country needs to keep its hospitals open and the physicians working. Yeah, so my mother worked through all the Cultural Revolution period in the hospital, and then that was also how some of the Americans found her after China reopened to the West in 1978.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, right. Okay.
they helped her return to.
Okay. Who helped? Americans or?
Yeah, the Americans. Yeah,
Okay.
they were fascinated by her stories of
Oh.
childhood being adopted by American medical missionaries back in the 1930s. And then, so my mother had American families still, what we still do, American families. And so these American visitors in 1978, 1979, they just found fascinating that because China just reopened to the West. And it was so isolated for 30 years or so from the world. Yeah. And they didn't know we'll be somebody like this trapped in China. Yeah. Technically, Chinese American or American, because my mother was brought up by Americans. I grew up in a Western environment. So
right, yeah.
Perfect English. Yeah, so they just, and then she had a little bit of a slight New York accent because she spent some years in Yonkers before. Yeah, so they found all that interesting, and they worked pretty hard to get her back to the States, and that's how we left. We left China.
Yeah, so you had some contacts that kind of helped you get away from the regime, really.
Right.
She was born a year after my dad was born, so I mean, I can remember stories he says was that obviously, a different kind of politics was going on, and obviously, his grandparents were actually still in India, and then it was more obviously with Gandhi and stuff like that. It was in that era that he was born, so you can imagine, what was going on, in terms of.
It was a very different time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very different time, but when my dad was around that politics, you see what I mean? Well, his parents, if you like, and his era of being born was around that, and like your mum was around it wasn't even communist when your mum was born. You see what I mean? It just suddenly happened, didn't it, in 1955, 6, something like that. The great Panda. His name's Panda.
Yeah. I see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I had conversations about communism, some of them were defending it, and I actually sat in business class going to Philippines from Beijing airport one time. I don't know why they put me there, but I was lucky. But then I sat next to a political entity, this lady, and then she seemed quite all right with the present. Xi Ping, is it?
Right.
She said, he's a good man, actually, blah, blah, blah. But obviously it was quite notorious leaders before that. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, so I'm puzzled by their thinking process, if you will. And I don't know what they're doing or where they think they're taking China. But having grown up during the Cultural Revolution, Mao's Cultural Revolution lasted from 1966 to 1976.
Right.
Then, and for me as a child, and for my mother as a grown up who was a target of persecution during that time.
Yes.
I think we both will hope China had suffered enough and learned some of the lessons the hardest way possible. And so whatever they decide to do, I hope they're not looking to 1960s and 1970s again.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm sort of apolitical. Sometimes I think about these things, but most time I tell myself these issues are above way above my pay grade, well beyond my abilities to control. But I like you visit China, right? So
from
my book, I visited China.
Only a short visit.
times.
Only a short visit, by the way, but it still visited China. So
Yeah, so
still had enough
you
time to have
yeah,
conversations.
oh,
You
absolutely.
know, I
You've
went to
experienced people, right?
Tennyson Square where that massacre happened. You know, I
Yeah,
made a point of
sure.
taking a picture and saying, "Well, that was wrong." You know, what happened to that
Yeah.
guy that was hit behind a tank? You know, that
Oh,
tends to happen
exactly. I mean, that's a
when
world
someone.
famous photo now. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very
Right.
famous.
I
Yeah,
know. But people, right? You converse with people when you visited. Chinese people are good people. I mean,
yeah,
they're
on the ground.
working,
Yeah, yeah,
creative.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm hopeful about China
Yes, yeah,
in
yeah.
the future, in the sense that I mean, what government in human history has consistently represented its people, right? Or the will or
True.
interest of its people,
Well,
right?
nobody thinks that our
But I don't
government
know.
does. The
But
government
yeah,
government
but
now, that
it's
nobody thinks
really
they represent. They think of themselves, you know. So it's
right. So
so
it's really the people, right? So people
yeah.
matter, and
But
so American people will lead America wherever it will go. It'd be
yeah,
fine, and
exactly.
Chinese people will ultimately prevail. It'd be fun. Yeah,
That's what you call a democracy, but actually, China isn't a democracy with the way it's a one-party system, isn't it?
far from being a
Yes, this is
democracy.
the argument I was having. I said, "Well, don't you think you should have a say?" But I said, "Yeah, but it's good because at least things are in order, and it can and can't. I mean, authoritarian kind of discipline of people, whether it's parenting or because I've learned a lot about that with my 8-year-old daughter. You can't have that kind of parenting, and it can affect people, you know. So you need to have some way where it's, you know, you have a two-way system and
China
be able to
has
speak,
a
you
huge
know.
population. So
Yeah, it's a huge,
population
yeah.
for that size of population, I think chaos is not good and
Mm,
can easily take place. So certain level of I think management or control, if you
yeah,
will, might be good, uh, but it's a spectrum, right? I mean, one extreme is no freedom, the other extreme is total freedom,
mm.
and I tend to believe somewhere in between.
Yeah, because
Um,
America is almost the other way, isn't it?
I'm
Not anarchy, but you know, um, India
glad
has
you said it.
India
Yeah.
has a big population. And I've been to India as well, so they have a big
Mhm.
population. And obviously, living in the Philippines, it's as if you're in a province of China, and they worry, but they think, oh, we don't want to be a province of China, and some actually do. The last leader um, actually signed allegiance with China and made some deals and everything else. And then they thought,
Mhm.
oh, you're signing out to China because they before that had the U.S. military there, and you know, it was the country that got invaded by Japan during World War II, just
Right.
before, you know, during your mother's time. She would remember that probably when Pearl Harbor
Mhm.
happened. Then
Yep.
the Philippines got invaded straight away because it was part of America. That's what Pearl Harbor was about when they
Right.
dropped the bomb in Hawaii. You know, so anyway, we're going to digressing here. So let's go on to some of the stuff that happened. So you wrote this memoir. You became a, I don't know, is it academic? Your mother obviously became I'm not going to try and pronounce it again, but obviously a doctor of the eye, if you like.
Yeah. Right. Eye
uh,
doctors. Yeah.
and you
Exactly.
became, how did your journey sort of become before now, from
Yeah.
there up to a professor?
So for me, so I was 14, and
Mm,
then China had become more stabilized after Mao passed away, and then
yeah.
the Cultural Revolution ended, and China reopened to the West, and the school
Yes.
system, education system was reinstalled, and
Mm,
so I actually became really interested in literature, history, and writing, of course, all in Chinese.
yeah.
And of course, I was telling you earlier, I was uprooted without any knowledge, and I didn't even know my mother's American past, and I didn't even know that she was adopted or raised by American missionaries until again I was on my way to America. So by the time I got to America, I didn't know a word of English, and I was about to enroll ninth grade or 10th grade, depending on where they think I fitted. And so that was a huge struggle. So
Mm,
took many years for me even to write a coherent sentence. So to become a writer, author, at the time, I was thinking about becoming some kind of writer, but in Chinese. So all of that went out the window. Even when I went to college, I was getting D's and F's on my writing assignments. And so I ultimately decided to choose science,
Yeah.
which had not been my strong suit. And then I didn't know what discipline to choose, and so I chose organic chemistry, and that was a terrible mistake because that was another language. So it's like, oh my goodness.
Which
and
one?
that was
Sorry, what was that?
Organic chemistry.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah. So I was actually flunking out the first semester of organic chemistry, and so that was painful.
Yeah.
And luckily, I had several really good organic chemistry professors. They thought I was interested in chemistry, and so they took me in. They took me under their wings and taught me how to do experiments and actually use my hands in a laboratory. And that part I was interested. And so then went to grad school and majored in chemistry and went to grad school and then began a teaching career. I had to relearn so many things during my years of teaching. So totally by accident, or actually I was forced into this discipline that now I look back on. I mean, I'm eternally grateful that I had a career of this kind, right? So, and yeah, so my mother wanted me to be a doctor and all those things, but again, those high expectations all went out the window by the time I came to the States and realized that language is going to be a challenge for the rest of my life. So, and so I try to pursue things that I thought will require least amount of language. But teaching in front of classroom, my goodness, that requires language ability. So anyway, I learned a lot in the last 30 plus years pursuing chemistry, teaching chemistry. Yeah.
Wow. So that's what got you to where you was academically there.
Yeah, right.
So when you got there, you managed to uncover some secrets and truths about your mother's and your own life. And also you set your career aside as a professor, which is what you eventually got up to complete her memoir, Spring Flowers. So what did you uncover and what happened and why did you set aside to complete Spring Flowers?
Oh,
That's two questions.
Yeah, right. And I'll answer the second one first.
All right.
Yeah, it became too much. And I was working at my job by day and coming home at night. I had to do a lot of research. My mother left many stories unfinished, and many stories with just a line, a hint, sometimes a photo with an arrow. So I got to talk about this person. I'm thinking, who is that person, right? And so there was a lot of work. And so after a while, it became clear to me I can't do both. So, and when I first began working on my mother's memoir, it was 2014, 10 years ago. And I was at the height of my career. And so it wasn't an easy decision just to let it go and completely abandon something that I had to work hard to establish. And so it took about 4 or 5 years and to think, my goodness, if I want to live a little longer, I need to just choose one of the two. And so I decided I've had a good 25 years of teaching. Maybe I can hang it up and focusing on my mother's memoir solely and devote all my energy to just try to complete this task or this enormous project. So that's how I ultimately retired 2 years ago now, about 2 years ago. Right. In terms of what I found a lot of stuff that were hidden. No less than the shock I received, as I was telling you, on my flight to America. I was getting all this information about my mother's past, and why we're going to America and why we may never return to China again to see my sister and see my father. And so writing, compiling, editing, whichever word we want to use, my mother's life and story. Uh, I learned a lot about my mother, I guess. More about learning than uncovering. There were some secrets and things I didn't know about, but more learning of who she was, right? Because she mostly presented one side of herself to me. She was this really rigid, stern, disciplined. She had this persona where she was incapable of showing you love or crack a smile, crack a joke, right?
Yeah.
And then so I actually feared her in some ways. But I also respected her, right? Because she was fast, smart, really capable of a lot of different things. She could speak Japanese. So she was able to shift back and when we were in Japan, she was just completely fluent in Japanese. I had no idea where she learned Japanese.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And then essentially she was living in China, had language ability of two countries, two languages from countries that are considered
bilingual
enemies of the state, right?
Yeah,
in
at that
China,
time,
in
yeah,
1960s and 70s, right? America and Japan, right?
Yeah,
so
that's right.
I just puzzled, right? Baffled me. But anyway, so so I respected her. She was brilliant and seemed perfect. And she had these high expectations and oftentimes very unreasonable expectations of me.
Yeah.
And so, but compiling the memoir, looking at her story, she was anything but perfect. She was just like the rest of us, a kid, a grown up who was scared, lonely, yearning for love. And she struggled in organic chemistry just as I did.
All right. Okay.
She might be brilliant and smart. She made a lot of mistakes as I have in all my life. So I look at her now as a human being, not as some kind of perfect, brilliant figure that I always have to look up to. I can now look at her straight on.
Yeah.
Right. So I learned those things, and I actually appreciate that because it changed my perspective of her.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, obviously, when you did that in 2014, I see here that that's when she sadly passed away. I was just thinking, would it have made any difference to your relationship with her had you done that 10 years earlier or something?
Yeah, so that's a very insightful question. I thought about a lot of that during the past years doing this.
Yeah.
I wonder, if she would be proud of me for doing this.
Yeah.
And B, if she would think that I sort of have met her expectations. Probably not. So she was suffering from dementia.
Oh, yeah.
Had spent 10 years on a hospital bed in a nursing home bed, I guess. And so even before she went to a nursing home, she was already far gone, I guess, for quite a few years. So altogether about 15 years. And so whenever I visited her in the nursing home, it gradually became a monologue. And so those last few years before she passed away was completely monologue. I would sit there for 30 minutes, just chat with her. Somehow I think she heard me, but she never responded to me or any of my questions whatsoever. But yeah, I wish she would have finished the memoir herself.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to do it. But B, like what you said, I wish it was a project that she and I had to work together at the same time, and it would have done wonders to our relationship.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it is good. You can look back in hindsight. A lot of people look back and fight. I found things when my mother died and just thought, oh wow, I didn't know that was existing. I didn't know that was there. When you look for a little treasure trove of things, and it's like wow. And I suppose that triggered your decision to complete Spring Flowers as well, did it?
Yeah. So I mean, to be honest, I never thought I would be on this project until 2014. I visited her in the nursing home, and again, one of those monologues, right?
Mm.
And at that time, she was already in the nursing home for about 9.5 years. That was her 10th year. And I just said to her, I said, I don't understand why you're still here.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? She was very physically fit because she would run to work and run back home when she was younger. And so she had this, essentially, it's a physical cage that was trapping her. Right? So she was trapped.
Yeah.
But it was healthy, right? Physically. But even then, it was starting to deteriorate. I just sat next to her thinking, I'm puzzled. This is 10th year. What's the point of staying here? Why don't you go to the other side? You'd be free, right? And well, however the other side is, right? Says, why don't you just go? And so as I was leaving that day, this was early in 2014. I was actually greeting her a Happy New Year.
Mm.
And I said, oh, I think you're worried about your book, right? You wonder who's going to finish it. So how about I'll do it? So how about if I'll do it, why don't you just leave and you be free, and rest in peace, go in peace? And I didn't know that worked. A couple months later, she died, and then I was left holding the bag with this promise. And at the time, I had no idea how I would fulfill.
Yeah.
And then, I might not have answered your question, but like what you were hinting, I began to read her writings and things, all the notes, handwritten notes. The massive boxes of materials she left behind. I got fascinated, and so that just pushed me onto the path to pursue this project.
Yeah, fantastic. So obviously we're running out of time here, but I take it it's now finished, the book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank God.
So could you? Yeah, I can imagine. I wrote a short memoir type self-help book before I left the fire service in 2014. It was released actually, but where can before you go, where can people find it and find out more about you and the book?
Yeah, so the books are available Amazon.com or Barnes and Noble, and then I have, I guess, LinkedIn set up to promote the books and then these interviews, such as with you today. Maybe I can post a link on my LinkedIn page. Yeah, so. I also have a website set up honoring my, I guess, my American grandparents who were medical missionaries in China. Yeah, where they adopted my mom. So so some of my writings are also on that website. Yeah.
Do you still talk to your? Well, I don't know if they're still around. Your sister and your family that's back in China.
My older sister is now living in Boston with her son.
Okay, so that's good.
Right. Yeah, so she suffers from cerebral palsy. And, that's been a struggle of all her life.
I see.
My father passed away literally about 8, 9, 10 months after my mom passed away. So he died in 2015.
In China?
He also in Boston. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. So
actually, complicated. He died in China, but he had already immigrated to America.
Okay, so you got to see them, your sister and mother anyway.
Yeah, it took about 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I could understand that.
But we were reunited after 25 years.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
My father and my sister.
Yeah. So you're in touch with your sister now anyway, still. Yeah. Still in communication.
From time to time, I will go to Boston to see her.
Yeah. And where are you in the States?
Right now I live in Madison, Wisconsin.
So that's kind of in the west, is it?
So we're about
Mid.
2 hours north of Chicago O'Hare
Oh,
Airport.
so it wouldn't take that long to get there. Yeah, it wouldn't take that long to get there. Yeah. So you could actually get to West Coast and East Coast in a reasonable time, couldn't you? From there.
Oh, completely.
And
totally.
Canada as well, actually, but not Miami. Not Miami.
Not Miami.
Probably. Yeah. Anyway, it's very, very nice and a pleasure to have you on the show to talk about your journey, actually. And as I say, politics in China, and so I've been to communist countries. I've been to is also Moscow, and which obviously changed because it wasn't communist anymore, but they think they are. Putin and Cuba, which was about to change actually the time I went, 2011, because I forgot his name now. The leader,
Fidel Castro. Yeah,
Castro's brother was in charge because his brother, Fidel Castro died, and then now he's not in charge anymore, and then it's becoming more. Yeah, you can have a bit of small business, and I could see that change coming, and now the American embassy's there and things like that. So anyway. We're going to run out of time because otherwise we've been talking about communism forever. But I'm sure I can come and have you back if I have something about China, something about communism, something about your book.
That reminds me to come back.
To bring, exactly, yeah. So fantastic. It was a really great pleasure having you here. And I take it you do know some Chinese as well. Obviously, you brought up to a teenage, weren't you? So you speak Mandarin.
Chinese.
Oh, so you know, I only know some words.
I now speak some Mandarin. Yes.
Yeah. So I was going to say, thanks very much for coming on the show. So, 谢谢.
谢谢你.
Okay. 谢谢 and Joy Jin. Thanks very much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening, and remember, if you want to support what we do, then share, subscribe, and leave a review over on Apple Podcasts, or head over to my website davepalmer.com and click on Rate Show. Well, that's all for now, but I'll see you in the next episode of The Dave Palmer Show.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.